make a crochet bear plushie, you would need a color yarn of your choice for the bear's body and head and arms and legs. Optional white yarn for the snout, some black yarn for the eyes and the nose, some needles. They should be bigger around this size. A bigger crochet hook if you have bigger yarn. It depends on the size of yarn that you have. Usually it will say on the packaging. A marker or paper clip is also fine, and a pair of scissors. Before we begin, there are a few tips. Just make sure to make your hands really relaxed and don't hold the thread very tightly, or else your bear would turn out to be very tight. But to start off, hold the loose end like this and twirl it around to make an X. And you flip over your hand. There should be parallel lines. Go under the first line, over the second, turn it, and then go under the nearest line like that. Pull the nearest line through, just like this. Your magic ring should look exactly like this, and then you should hold your yarn like so. First, you want to start by making 6 single crochets, and single crochets are done like this. You go inside the hoop, behind and around the top yarn, and you go behind and around the top yarn again, and you pull it through both loops. So repeating that would be inside the loop, behind around the yarn, pull it through the hoop, and then behind and around the yarn, pull it through both loops. After you're done with your 6 single crochets, there should be a little thread hanging out. You want to pull it so it tightens up into a circle. The circle looks like this, and each V is considered 1 stitch. It's a bit hard to tell the stitches with such like furry yarn, so I recommend starting with thinner or smaller yarn. But basically this is 1 stitch, 2 stitch, 3 stitch, 4, 5, and 6. Made. This should go through both strings, as you can tell here, between the V. Then you want to go back to the first stitch that you just made, so across this gap right here, and make another single crochet. Now, since we are on the second row, you want to increase each stitch, meaning that you need to put 2 single crochets in each single crochet from the first row. So you have to go back to the same exact gap, which should be right next to this upside down V shape. After you're done with these 2 stitches, you can move on to the next V shape, which is right here. And again, you have to put another stitch into the same V shape. Make sure you're holding your yarn very loose. So another single crochet into the previous single crochet, just like that. You can tell it's starting to fold around like a little cap. Moving on to the next V shape is this white one. 1 single crochet, a second one. Now it should look something like this, and for the stitch that your stitch marker is on, just take the stitch marker off and then put 2 more stitches in. Two more single crochets. Ignore the strand at the back, just leave it there. So this is the second one. And then remember to put your stitch marker back into the last one you just made. So if we count from the beginning, we should have 12 stitches since 6 times 2 equals 12. For the third round, you do not want to keep putting 2 single crochets into 1 stitch, because if you keep doing that, it'll just get bigger and bigger instead of becoming balls. So for the third round, in total, you will have 18 stitches, and to do that, you need to put 1 single crochet in the first or next stitch. So 1 single crochet, and then in the next stitch, you have to do 2 single crochets. So 1, 2. And then you go back to repeating the pattern 1, 2, 1, 2. I redid that one because it's a bit tight. So 2. And then the next one is 1. And then 2. And on this part, I just took out the stitch marker that originally went here, and you end with the second number, which is 2. So, like that. And then put in the stitch marker, and at the end of each round you always want to count your stitches, because if you get it wrong on, like, for example, the 3rd row, then your 4th row is also going to be messed up. 18. When you count on this stitch and then end with the stitch that your stitch marker is on. If you're using thinner yarn, obviously it's not going to be this big, but for the 4th row, the pattern is single crochet, and then double, which is also called increase. So single crochet, single crochet, increase, which is 2 single crochets. So increase, and then single crochet again, single crochet again, and then increase. I recommend starting with simpler projects such as the octopus to get used to doing single crochets, so that when you get to the bear, it's easier to tell which stitch to put the hook in. So I forgot which stitch I'm at, so excluding the stitch marker, single crochet, double, single crochet, double. So the next one is going to be single crochet. Row you would want to end on the 3rd number, so essentially you just end on the last number of this sequence. So you can see single, single, take the stitch marker off, double in this one. And make sure every time that you're going through both of the stitches, not just the front loop or the back loop. there's 2 strings. It's hard to tell, but go through both of them. Put in the stitch marker, count, and for this row there should be 24 stitches.